Duncan thinks that the Biden that fell off the bike yesterday was a fake
young
Biden.
man, dude.
No.
You think it's a body double?
Did you see his body?
Pull it up.
Biden's got a nice bod.
Yeah, Biden has nice legs.
He has nice
Don't
legs.
hate. I think you're hating.
I couldn't have been happier to watch that guy fall off.
That's how high gas prices are.
I'll be honest.
He is the gift that keeps giving. If you're not a Biden fan,
I haven't seen it yet. Let's see it.
Joe Biden's former doctor refused to answer a single question about the ex-president's poor health. Wow, he seems like the perfect doctor to treat my secret warts. True. When asked about Biden's decline, he simply referred them to the coroner's report.
What if the single most powerful person on the planet, the one with the nuclear codes and the fate of nations at his fingertips, suddenly seemed to forget who he was talking to, where he was, or even why he was standing at a podium in the first place? This isn't the opening to a political thriller. It's a question that has begun to haunt public appearances. And into this void of awkward silences and confusing moments step two of America's most unfiltered commentators, Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld. These aren't political insiders or party loyalists. They are cultural observers who treat political nonsense like a target for sport. When a bizarre moment unfolds on the world stage, they don't just report on it, they dissect it, magnify it, and turn the resulting awkwardness into a masterclass of comedy that has millions questioning what they are seeing. The spectacle isn't just about a single gaffe, it's about the consistent, escalating pattern that has these two polar opposite personalities arriving at the exact same, deeply unsettling conclusion.
so long a face.
Yeah, Barron. Was he 6'8"?
They put Barron. Well, Barron would stand out.
The cringe is almost palpable, a second-hand embarrassment that radiates through the screen and makes you want to look away, but you can't. It's the kind of moment that transcends political divides, where supporters and critics alike hold their breath, hoping it's just a momentary slip. But then it happens again. The feeling is less about political disagreement and more about a fundamental sense of unease, like watching a tightrope walker suddenly forget he's on a wire. This shared, unspoken reaction is precisely what fuels the commentary from the sidelines, as it captures a feeling that many are experiencing but few in positions of power are willing to acknowledge. It is a collective national wits.
Look at the size of him.
That's crazy.
Whoa.
Bro, look at the size of him. He doesn't look anything like Biden.
Shane, we were there.
Look how tall he is.
We were right
He's
there.
Towering,
On the inside windows.
Towering over his wife. Like, what is that?
Wow, Biden dirty.
Like, what is that?
There's an almost surreal quality to the imagery, a bizarre juxtaposition of immense power and profound vulnerability playing out on live television. We see the presidential seal, the flags, the gravitas of the office, and then we see a figure who appears to be searching for an invisible guide. It has been compared to Abraham Lincoln in stature, yet the performance often feels fragile and disconnected. This stark contrast between the symbol and the man creates a cognitive dissonance that is both fascinating and deeply troubling, turning what should be a routine address into a high-stakes performance where the audience is left wondering if the main actor remembers his lines, or even the name of the play.
Damn.
That's weird.
Shane and I went to the windows.
I think there was
We
times
did.
when he had some complications and
they
they
just
brought
had
in
to
another
stand in?
guy. Yeah, I think so.
One of these cameras in.
Yeah, between Van Hollen and Biden, I feel like this is Ask Wednesday. My guess is that he booked this. This was booked probably a year in advance before the Dems knew he was totally brain dead.
It is a scene that has become unnervingly familiar. A speech concludes, not with a powerful crescendo, but with a slow, aimless drift away from the podium as if pulled by an unseen force. One moment, he's the commander-in-chief addressing the nation. The next, he's wandering off stage, leaving a vacuum of confusion in his wake. In that instant, aides can be seen scrambling with a quiet panic, the carefully orchestrated event suddenly thrown into chaos. The house band strikes up a tune, a desperate attempt to fill the awkward silence and distract from the spectacle of a leader who appears utterly lost. You can almost picture Joe Rogan, hundreds of miles away in his studio, pausing his podcast mid-sentence, shaking his head in sheer disbelief at what has become a recurring and undeniable pattern.
She's going to win.
Joe Biden was the ultimate catfish.
Yeah.
We were all online being told, oh, this is a congenial centrist. Yeah, swipe right. I don't know how to do these dating apps.
Yeah.
But anyway, then you find out it's not him at all, but some guy in a bathrobe smoking meth.
Yeah.
The routine has become so predictable it is almost a national pastime, a game of political bingo where the squares are filled with mispronounced names, invented statistics, or sudden, inexplicable exits. Greg Gutfeld, meanwhile, likely has a team of writers who no longer need to brainstorm for material, they just need to tune in and transcribe. The central question that hangs over every public appearance has shifted from what will he say to will he get through it. It's a dark game of guess who, where the options are increasingly stark. Is this the strategic leader of the free world, or is it a beloved but confused relative who's been handed a microphone at a family gathering? Every time he speaks, it is a coin toss between statesmanship and utter bewilderment, and America's two most prominent comedic truth-tellers have officially stopped whispering their concerns and started shouting them from the rooftops.
But you have to be able to call out shit that's wrong on your side. And this is one of the problems that the Democratic Party's having right now with this Joe Biden guy. You guys got to be able to call it out. You can't let this slide because everybody else sees it, and Trump is going to eat him alive. He's going to eat that guy alive.
For Joe Rogan, this isn't about scoring political points. It's about a fundamental break with perceived reality. He has been casting a skeptical eye on the narrative surrounding presidential fitness since 2020. But now he is watching the situation unfold with the intensity of someone witnessing a slow-motion catastrophe. Rogan doesn't operate within the typical red vs. blue framework. He's an outsider by nature, a hunter, a martial artist, a philosopher of the unconventional who has built an empire on questioning everything the establishment holds sacred. So, when he directs his focus toward the president's coherence, it is not born from partisan allegiance. It comes from a place of raw, unfiltered astonishment, a genuine what in the world is actually happening here, that resonates with millions who feel the same way but rarely hear it articulated so bluntly.
He's without question the worst president in my lifetime, and that is the proof, because we've talked about this. His solution for inflation is explaining what inflation is. Here's the thing about inflation. Food prices go up. And what we're going to try to do, and I think this is going to work, is maybe get the prices, you can get the prices to go down, unless it's gas.
Rogan's entire platform is built on navigating the murky waters of modern discourse, from media spin to the ever-present threat of censorship, all with the deftness of a seasoned fighter. He's spent years challenging the official narratives on everything from public health to foreign policy, always probing for the truth behind the polished talking points. But the current situation with the president has become his ultimate case study in institutional gaslighting. One moment, Biden is whispering into the microphone with a strange, unnerving intimacy, as if narrating a ghost story to an empty room. The next, he's making grand announcements with the hesitant air of someone who just remembered a crucial detail. For Rogan and his massive audience, which exceeds 11 million listeners per episode, this isn't just a political issue, it's a reality issue. In a world of scripted politicians and robotic answers, Rogan's chaotic, 3-hour conversations feel more authentic and, bizarrely, more presidential than the real thing. He is the guy asking the hard questions without a tie, and everyone is leaning in because they suspect he is onto something big.
I remember when I had a stutter, it was so bad it caused me to wander into the rainforest. Oh, thank you. It gets worse. So Joe only had a stutter. Yeah, and Stephen Hawking's feet were just asleep.
This is precisely the moment where biting comedy evolves into something far more serious, something that feels disturbingly like prophecy. When a psychedelic curious podcaster starts sounding more grounded and coherent than the man holding the launch codes, we have officially drifted past the realm of satire and into the territory of a real-time documentary on institutional decay. Just as this unsettling thought begins to settle, Greg Gutfeld enters the scene, taking one look at the latest montage of presidential stumbles, whispers, and rambles, and proceeds to unleash a comedic barrage. For a satirist like Gutfeld, Joe Biden isn't just a source of material, he's a bottomless gold mine of absurdity, a never-ending slot machine of gaffes that consistently hits a jackpot of confusion, complete with cue cards, staged reactions, and a notable delay between question and comprehension. Gutfeld's show has transformed from a late-night talk show into a full-blown roast factory, and the president is perpetually the main course, served with a side of machine gun sarcasm and one-liners that slice through the political spin with surgical precision. Whenever the president leans into the microphone and adopts his now infamous whisper, a move that feels like a bizarre attempt at ASMR for ghosts, Gutfeld doesn't miss a beat. He doesn't need to invent scenarios. He just needs to describe what he sees, often shrugging to his audience with a look that says, "You see it too, right?" He'll quip, "Well, at least he didn't try to shake hands with the teleprompter this time," a joke that lands with brutal force because it feels just one small step away from reality. The gaffes are no longer occasional blunders. They are the reliable, foundational content of his monologues. The real comedy, Gutfeld often implies, is watching the handlers react in real time, their frantic efforts to steer the ship resembling a live-action slapstick routine where a wrong turn could have global consequences. As Biden points in one direction and his staff gently guides him in another, you can almost hear the silent prayers of an intern hoping he doesn't try to explain nuclear policy using a convoluted metaphor about pudding. The genius of Gutfeld's critique lies in its simplicity and its refusal to play along with the pretense. He once joked that President Biden's most effective political strategy is simply hoping that the American people have short-term memory loss and will forget he spoke by the next news cycle. It's a line delivered with a smirk, but it cuts to the heart of a deeply concerning issue, the apparent strategy of running out the clock, banking on the public's distraction and the media's complicity to overlook what is happening in plain sight. This observation isn't just a punchline, it's a scathing indictment of a political and media ecosystem that seems determined to normalize the abnormal, creating a reality distortion field around the highest office in the land.
Oh, Biden was there too. Look at him. See, I just wonder about his skin.
That what are they pulling it back with fishing wire to keep it up on his head?
It just seems, he seems oddly stiff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it seems like everything's pulled. Like there's not I expect a certain amount of laxity in a man's face when he reaches a certain age, particularly around the forehead area.
And then there's the almost compulsive obsession with Amtrak. It seems no speech is complete without a meandering detour into the world of locomotives, as if Biden's true passion lies not in governing, but in serving as the unofficial ambassador for the nation's passenger rail system. While it might seem like a harmless, folksy quirk, Gutfeld masterfully seizes on it as a metaphor for a mind stuck on a single, looping track, unable to deviate from a few well-worn talking points. It is this ability to find the deeper meaning in the seemingly trivial that makes his satire so effective and resonant with his audience. Gutfeld takes these moments and masterfully flips the script on the entire political establishment. He once pointed out that when Biden boasts about his 50 years of experience in Washington, he is not presenting a credential, he is delivering an indictment against himself. In Gutfeld's framing, that isn't a resume of accomplishment, it's a half-century of stagnation, culminating in a pension and a legacy of the very problems he claims he can solve. Instead of delicately tiptoeing around the obvious signs of decline, Gutfeld paints them in bold, unapologetic, and sarcastic strokes. His approach isn't driven by malice, it's clinical. He wields satire like a surgeon's scalpel, with the presidency as the patient on the operating table that everyone else is pretending isn't actively flatlining. This is why his commentary hits with such force it validates the audience's own observations.
The worst part about this whole thing is that his presidency is ripe for mockery and ridicule and even gentle humor if you like him. I mean, just Hunter Biden alone, in the recent stuff, I mean, you could go...
While mainstream news networks often handle the president with kid gloves, treating him like a fragile porcelain doll who must be protected from tough questions and unscripted moments, Gutfeld's show plows through the carefully constructed narratives like a freight train through a parade of propaganda. He doesn't bother with the gentle framing or the benefit of the doubt analysis. Instead, he mirrors the exasperation of a significant portion of the country that is tired of being told that what they are seeing with their own eyes isn't actually happening. His program has become a sanctuary for viewers who feel gaslit by traditional media, offering a nightly dose of affirmation that their perceptions are, in fact, grounded in reality. Gutfeld is not delivering academic lectures or policy deep dives. He is speaking directly to an audience that has moved past the point of pretending everything is functioning normally while the leader of the nation seems to be searching for his car keys on the world stage. His viewers are people who don't require every joke to be pre-approved by a committee on political correctness before it can be aired. They are hungry for commentary that is raw, honest, and unapologetically snarky a truth wrapped in comedy rather than another condescending TED talk about political civility. It's a brand of communication that trusts the audience to be in on the joke because they are living in the same reality.
But Kimmel has abdicated his role of a comedian. He's now just a political hack, which I'm grateful for because then I get the turf to myself. I'm not a comedian, but I just filled the gap. That's why I'm beating him every night because he sat there with that guy and basically he spoon-fed him like he was a dementia patient at a restaurant.
And this is where the two distinct worlds of commentary begin to collide in a fascinating and powerful way. While Gutfeld is on television, firing off rapid-fire zingers like a caffeinated sniper from his New York studio, Joe Rogan is sitting in his podcast fortress in Austin, nodding along slowly as he listens to the clips, his expression a mixture of amusement and genuine alarm. He simply concludes, "Yeah, this is insane." These two men could not be more different. One thrives in the fast-paced world of cable news, the other in the long-form, unscripted realm of podcasting. Yet, through their vastly different methods, they consistently arrive at the exact same, unavoidable conclusion: something is fundamentally wrong with the president's public presentation, and perhaps even more disturbingly, the collective effort to pretend otherwise is the bigger danger. Rogan wants to dissect the problem to understand why the system is breaking down, while Gutfeld is there to deliver the eulogy with a punchline. Together, they create the perfect cocktail of chaotic commentary, one part methodical logic, one part savage lunacy, shaken vigorously over the latest presidential blunder. Their commentary taps directly into a deep and growing national sentiment that has been simmering just beneath the surface. It has the unsettling feeling that the country is being led by a man who seems just one microphone whisper away from accidentally narrating his grocery list during a NATO briefing, while an entire class of political and media elites insists that everything is perfectly fine. Of course, the legacy media despises this. When these same commentators, Rogan and Gutfeld, were roasting the previous administration, their critiques were often celebrated as edgy, brave, and even noble acts of speaking truth to power. But now that the shoe is on the other foot, their humor is suddenly framed as dangerous, disrespectful, and a direct threat to the foundations of democracy itself.
And then
he called his wife
they
his
were
sister or
created
some
by,
shit.
the I forget what it was. I forget what the gaffe was, but it was one of those. We listened to him like, what are you saying? Like it's like he has no brakes.
It's a stunningly transparent double standard that reveals a critical truth for many in the established media. A sense of humor seems to be directly correlated with whose team is currently in the hot seat. When Rogan simply questions Biden's capacity to lead effectively, he is immediately slapped with the label of misinformation, as if genuine inquiry has become a forbidden act. But the real issue they expose isn't just about one man's fitness for office. The disease they are diagnosing is systemic. It's the hollowed-out institutions, the meticulously curated public narratives, and the legacy media outlets that work tirelessly to smooth over every gaffe, applying rhetorical makeup to what increasingly looks like a political corpse. It is a leadership class that appears to believe competence is merely an optional accessory as long as the optics are managed correctly. This is precisely why their commentary resonates so deeply with millions of people. It's not just about mockery for the sake of being cruel, it's a form of collective catharsis. People aren't tuning into Rogan and Gutfeld simply to get angry or to have their political biases confirmed. They are watching as a way to cope with an increasingly bizarre reality. They are seeking validation that they aren't the only ones who see the emperor has no clothes and might also be having trouble remembering his own name. Deep down, they understand that the punchlines are only funny because the underlying situation is profoundly serious and deeply unsettling.
Play any of them. They're all crazy. Every video of him recently talking, he's stumbling through shit. He forgets what he's talking about.
We should be making those masks. We should be moving on those ventilators. We can do that. Why doesn't he just act like a president? That's a stupid way to say it.
The spectacle has become so commonplace that it's almost a ritual. The president walks to the podium, his eyes scanning the crowd with a vacant look, as if searching for a familiar face in a room full of strangers. He begins to mumble through a few disjointed sentences about a major policy issue, and you can practically see Joe Rogan in his studio blinking in slow motion as if he has just witnessed a UFO crash directly into a logic textbook. "This can't be real," he might mutter, his voice a mixture of laughter and genuine concern. Across the country, Greg Gutfeld's face becomes a mask of comedic deadpan, a silent, knowing nod to his audience that says more than any punchline ever could, "America, we have a problem." Just when you think the moment of awkwardness has passed, it happens. A line of speech becomes so slurred and incomprehensible that it sounds like he is trying to invent a new language on the spot, one that combines obscure foreign policy with the ingredients for a minestrone soup. At this point, it ceases to be a simple gaffe or a verbal slip-up. It transforms into a full-blown neurological freestyle performance, broadcast live to the entire world. And in that moment, there is nothing anyone can do, not his aides, not the media, not his supporters, but watch in stunned silence and wonder how we arrived at this critical juncture in history.
What's really hilarious now is they're all getting grilled by even like liberal media is grilling these politicians like, did you know Biden was out of his mind?
Right.
Like, how did you know?
Yeah.
Like Elizabeth Warren was like, he was sharp as a tack.
Oh.
He was getting up for meetings.
Never
like,
seen him better. I heard that too. It's like, what?
Joe Scarborough.
Yeah.
He was like, this is the best version of Biden I've ever seen.
Oh,
like,
my.
you should be literally in jail.
Yeah,
You're
God.
such a liar.
And through it all, a chilling thought echoes in the back of everyone's mind. A thought so alarming that it's rarely spoken aloud but is felt by millions. This is the man with the authority to launch nuclear weapons. This is the individual entrusted with the ultimate power over life and death on a global scale. The weight of that responsibility, contrasted with the on-screen performance, creates a tension that is almost unbearable, turning political commentary into something that feels existential.
Obviously, the doctor's protecting himself. Being Biden's physician is a tough gig. Every day it's something. He shattered his kneecap, checking his reflexes. He's got wet bones and sweaty teeth. It's like being a veterinarian. One day you're popping back in his shoulder, then you're removing worms from the burrow in his leg. Finally, you're pulling a chipmunk out of his...
But let's entertain a truly wild thought experiment for a moment. Imagine, just for a second, that President Biden actually agrees to appear on the Joe Rogan Experience. The iconic intro music fades, the camera pans to the two of them, and Biden sits down, looking at the complex microphone setup with the same bewilderment a caveman might show a smartphone. The initial encounter would be comedy gold. Yet, as the conversation unfolded, the laugh track would inevitably begin to fade into an uncomfortable silence. Because when the two men who have become the de facto voices of reason for millions want a comedian who roasts political absurdity with dad jokes, and the other a podcaster famous for exploring consciousness with scientists start sounding like the only adults left in the room, you have to start wondering if maybe, just maybe, the ultimate punchline is on all of us.
He was gonna lean his weight on his right leg, but he had already tried to get his foot out of the pedal thing, and he already committed.
These public stumbles are no longer quirky, charming, or harmless eccentricities. They have become glaring red flags, hastily covered in patriotic bunting and systematically downplayed by an army of media handlers armed with a fire hose of excuses. The jokes from commentators like Rogan and Gutfeld land with such devastating impact because they are masking a deep-seated fear that no one in power is willing to admit out loud. The emperor isn't just missing his clothes, he might be missing the entire plot. So, are we laughing to keep from crying? Or have we reached a point where the laughter itself is a symptom of our collective anxiety? Either way, when a stand-up comic and a former UFC commentator emerge as two of the most coherent and trusted voices in the American political landscape, it's a clear sign that this is no longer just comedy. It's a desperate cry for help, delivered in the form of a stand-up routine. If you feel that this conversation needs to be had, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our future deep dives. We want to know what you think, so please share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below.